Hey friends, thank you for joining me in another drawing tutorial. This time I want us to draw Sly Cooper. So I heard recently that they're making a film for Sly Cooper, that cool raccoon thief. And I thought it would be cool to have a drawing video that's really step by step. So what I'll try and do is really have this video go step by step when it comes to the basic guidelines, and then later on I can kick in the time lapse just to get through the details. But I really want to work more slowly on building a good base for that drawing, because sometimes I don't do that and it can show in the results. So the thing is with this character is also why I picked it, is because it's a really cool, I think, setup. It's a really interesting pose here, and his sort of entire figure is composed of shapes that are relatively easy to employ. So his face is actually composed of a triangle, which I just drew here. I'll go over the lines a bit to make sure you can properly see them. Oh, and I'm trying something a little different with the lights here, so I'll turn on a second light. Let me know what you think, if it will agree to turn on. Anyway, yep, there we have it. This is the shape of the head. Now, he's gonna have this sort of a hat on that's gonna come above the head like this. So I want to get that in as well. Just a very basic indication of the shape that's gonna come in a few moments. Now you'll notice that the center of the face is tilted a bit to the left. Okay, this is something important to remember. I can go ahead and mark it very gently. And there we have the head. We're done with it, believe it or not. These are all the major lines that we need to take into account. Okay, now what we're gonna draw is his left arm, which is sort of, he sort of has it pulled forward and is leaning up on it on the floor. So I'm kind of going with the flow and trying to find the lines. This is just gonna be the arm, composed of very two simple sort of parallel lines here, and it's gonna rest on the floor. And to do that, we'll break it off here in this part, and then very lightly indicate the way it's gonna look. So it's going to be really simple for now, just one and two lines here that are the base of the palm, and then sort of break off a thumb here. Not literally break off a thumb, that sounds painful. And then the rest of the palm here, resting on the floor, like this. Without going into too many details, just like that. We're gonna break it off later into 4 fingers, and hopefully it'll look good, because hands are a major issue for many people. I know it's quite a challenge. Now let's move on to drawing his left leg here. Now what I'm doing is comparing where his head is and sort of trying to figure out the relations between them. So his rather right leg is sort of supposed to end here. So I'm going to mark that spot. I think I marked it even earlier. And the center line of the body is going to be somewhere around this middle part of the upper part of the hand, of the arm, and a bit to the right here. So not really right below the chin, sort of to the right. And these are the important things you want to get in, sort of the relation between the parts. You want the parts to talk to each other in a sort of realistic way so that it feels real. Now I think I messed up a little bit and it should be more around here, maybe. Great. Now let's start drawing this leg here, and nothing too fancy. I look at where the hip ends and I can see that it sort of ends a bit to the left of the edge of the head, so it's about here. And this is where the knee is gonna be. I'll just mark it very lightly. Just keeping it very light. And then the second part of the leg is gonna come. And break into the foot itself. Now for the upper part, we have this here. Now he's a rather skinny character. This is the upper part and the lower part. I'm kind of trying to correct my lines here. And for the lower part, again, do the same on the other side. And then pull it downwards to a foot resting on the ground. Do let me know what you think about the light setup here. I have this sort of yellow light from the front and a blue light from the left. I just wanted to bombard this with light because sometimes my videos turn out a little dark. Now let's move on to the second leg here. So it's gonna go down. Now this is the center line of the body. So it moves sort of like this up towards the torso and then over to the head. And this is a rather simple part. You just have this other leg here. Use a curved line for this part. And the knee. And this entire part goes back, so it's sort of leaning on the foot here. The foot is slightly bent on the ground like that, and it's partially obstructed by the arm. What should we do next? Perhaps I sort of disconnect that part. Perhaps we can draw the other hand now. So we have the head here, and the other hand, this is the direction of the torso. So from shoulder, the shoulders, from shoulder to shoulder. And actually the other shoulder ends about here, behind the head and the hat. We can't see it. So we're just gonna pull a very gentle line here, just indicating where the arm is. And now a very cool effect that we have here is the foreshortening of that arm. So it's sort of, look at that arm, it's long, and this one is going to be significantly shorter because it will appear to be shorter, and you'll see in just a second. I'll just sort of create a very basic suggestion of the palm here, and as you can see, this arm is much longer than this one. And the reason for this is that this arm is moving away from us, while this one we can see its entire length. So this is a nice trick to have in mind. This is how objects that move away from us appear. I have a few other videos on sort of perspective and maybe foreshortening. You can check them out. Now here we have his sort of a hook that he has. I find it a very cool weapon, actually. This hook that he has, it sort of leads up to this part, and you know, I'm really what I'm doing here may seem a little complicated to you right now, like complex, but I'm really just looking at a picture and trying to recreate what I see. and I do that using very light, bright, weak lines so that I can fix it later. If you can draw curved lines, then you can do what I do right now. Try and follow me the best you can. And I'll also share the link to my reference here so that you can work with that as well. Just a picture I searched over at Google Images. And there you have it, the basic pose, believe it or not, is done. It's covering all of the way the body is sort of the stance of the character of Sly. And now we can go ahead and just one thing that I forgot, it's tail. So let's do that now. We have this sort of in this area. This is where the tail goes, and it's a very fat raccoon-like tail that goes like this. Now I'm trying to see where it ends to the right, like on the yeah, whatever that thing is called, and I see it's about around the area of the knee. So I'm just gonna end it about that area, at around that area, and then just pull up a second line because the tail sort of bends over itself, and connect it to the back. And there you have it, the basic pose, his hand to the back, his hand leaning forward, his two legs. Now what I think I can do now is begin breaking this into more accurate shapes, and I'll do that in time-lapse, and I'll be back really soon to explain sort of what I've done and to begin working on the more finer details. And I don't want this video to be like an hour long, so we'll try and do that rather quickly. So let's get to it. I'll be back soon and explain what I've done. Okay friends, thank you for your patience. I've added quite a lot of details here, just not the final details, but I really wanted to get all the sort of places where it divides to the clothes and different types, different parts of the clothing items he has. Now let's focus a bit on the face. Basically I've added folds where necessary, some more details like the pockets, which he needs for stealing stuff, and the details of his hook, and the little furry part here that's actually his skin, his bare arms. And now we can begin working on a face actually. So we sort of have this shape that I began further indicating in the time-lapse. So it's sort of, I broke the triangle inside, and this is the center line. So I think it'll be easiest to begin with his mouth actually. So his mouth is sort of, you can draw it by creating a sort of circular small line, pulling up like that, and sort of indicating a sly smile like this. It'll become clear in a few moments when we begin adding more details. Then at the center you want to draw, and this is why we did this center line, to help us with this sort of things. You want to draw the nose, very simple, sort of a circular broken into lines shape. This really doesn't have to be perfect to look good, as long as you get the gist of how the shape is. I'm gonna go ahead and add some tone right now. I can see that the center is darkest, then we have some brighter tones. This looks fine. I don't want you to get too caught up on these types of details. I want you to understand that the basic structure underlying the drawing is the most important part. And now he has this sort of thing that conceals his part of his face. Like, the most important part isn't concealed, which is the eyes, ironically. So everybody can actually recognize him if he robs something. So just like a night like cover for the eyes, and draw that. And the upper part here is sort of like this, so it looks like sunglasses at the moment. Now from this part you can draw the eyes themselves like that. That's one, and the other one. And you really want to make sure that this line keeps staying in the center of the drawing here. This sort of feels like eyebrows, so I'm gonna draw the way they look. And now for the most important part, the pupils and the irises. So he has this sort of a glint in his eyes, like this. The darkest part is in the center, then we have this glare thing, and a lighter layer here. I was actually thinking if I'd like to ink this, and perhaps I'll keep that for another video. For now I will try to give it some tone just based on the pencil work. This one should be a little lower. I can use the smaller eraser here to correct this. And so I won't ink this probably. I'll just use the pencil to get in some tones and leave that to maybe a separate video, maybe not, we'll see. So there you have it, like the basic face, and I saw that there is a slight shading here just to give a sense of a second lip. And I think I made a small mistake here. Let me try and fix it. The angle of this part should be a little more open, like this. And he should look somewhat smiling. Oh, okay, yeah. I know now. This area here is all wrong. Facial expressions are like one challenging thing, but I think exactly. This looks a bit better. He looks a little more like he's smiling. And you can indicate this sort of lower lip chin thing, and it'll add to the look. This part here, the patch thing, can be darkened entirely. And there you have it, his face are here as well. What you want to do now is add all the smaller, like the really more subtle details, and I think I will do that. And you know what, I might even go ahead and ink that. So let me go over all the details, like add a little more of depth to it, and then I'll go ahead and ink that. And the video is going to turn out a little long. There's nothing we can do about it. I'll be back really soon. Just wanted to let you know that I decided to quickly ink this because I won't feel like it's a complete drawing unless I do that. So I'll go ahead and do that in a second, and you'll get to see the final drawing. So I'll be back soon. Well, friends, that is almost it. I'm just dabbing away some of the pencil lines that were left. Thank you so much for sticking with me to the end of this, sticking it to the end of this video. One of the longer ones, I think. It's gonna be. I hope you enjoyed this drawing tutorial, and I hope you learned something new. If you enjoyed this, do check out my channel and subscribe, and also check out my website in the description box below. And that's it. Feel free to request specific videos if you want something. I just recently created a video based on a request I got, so I do that. So if you just ask, you may get one for the topic that you want. And that's it. I want to thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video.